guest is a unique motivational keynote speaker on wellness, resilience, and mindset leadership, positive change, health, well-being, spirituality, and near-death experiences, extraterrestrials, ancient mysteries, and esoteric knowledge. He's also a Mandarin court interpreter. His interdisciplinary trainings combined with his esoteric knowledge on mind, body, and spirit enable him to have a broad understanding of different fields as well as connections and implications across different domains. Let's welcome today's guest, Samuel Chong. Welcome, Samuel.
Hi, Adam. How are you?
Yeah, nice to have you here. I mentioned to you just a few seconds ago that I saw a few of your interviews and very interesting topics that you discussed, and more so the motivation to uncover interesting information and knowledge that advances us as a species on this earth. And something that you had written in your bio, which was gaining knowledge and technology from highly civilized and advanced extraterrestrials who can visit us or other types of beings. So how did you come upon that particular kind of feeling for yourself? Or how did you get into that?
That actually happened when I was young, when I was in China. There were magazines on UFOs or ET visits. So I was thinking, if the ETs could come and visit us, they must have advanced technologies and knowledge, and we can just learn from them to progress at a much faster pace. That was always in my subconscious mind. So after I came to the US, I was searching for the source and also books written by ET contactees. And then I read so many already by the time that I found this book, Thiaoouba Prophecy, and back then it was titled Abduction to the Next Planet. And this book is so different because it contains specific verifiable facts that people can do additional research. It really enlightens me because it actually connects all the dots from ancient civilizations, where we all came from originally, to the stories in the Bible, like who parted the sea for Moses, and who was Jesus and who was Christ, and why some people say that Jesus went to India, as well as the real dangers on earth. Number one, money. Number two, politicians. Number three, journalists and drugs. Number four, religions. And to what we need to do to make our future a better future. So that's the gist of the book. I think that book is so fascinating that I decided to visit the author personally.
Yeah, which was Michel Desmarquet, I believe his name is.
Yes, Michel Desmarquet. He was a French Australian. So, but by the time that I read the book, he was already living in Vietnam, very kind of reclusive life.
Yeah, how did you? The name of the book, I believe, is called the abduction to the
Thiaoouba.
abduction to the ninth planet and a true report.
Yes.
So, how did he welcome your visit? Did he welcome this to speak to you about this? Was he closed off a little bit?
No, he wasn't that friendly in the very beginning until he found out that I was able to help him to follow up with a contract that he signed with the Chinese publisher. You know, the reason that I went to visit him, not just because that the book is so fascinating, but also because in the postscript of the book, it says there are far more incredible things that the author, Michel Desmarquet, was not allowed to write about because we were far from understanding them. I was so curious about that one thing he knew but couldn't write in the book. So I decided to fly to Vietnam. I didn't know his exact address, but I took a photo of his bungalow posted by a tourist who accidentally met him in Vietnam. And then I showed that photo to the local taxi driver, and the taxi driver took me there on the second try. So, but he wasn't really friendly in the very beginning, but I kept going because I was there for 5 days. And then he opened himself up a little bit, saying that if you can help me out by contacting the publisher in China, then we'll continue to be in touch, something like that.
Yeah.
So I did, yeah.
Yeah, I've seen interesting interviews with other people visiting people who are scientists who have a scientific background, being contacted and having insight into specific aspects of civilization, as you mentioned. I believe there was a French physicist that was interviewed by another woman, and this is something similar in terms of you reaching out. How did your background in terms of, I mean, not your background, but in your family background itself, was this understood by your family? Was it challenged? Was it something that you went against, or what did they think of your endeavors of what you were doing?
I was born in China. My parents were just traditional Chinese doctors, herbal doctors. They weren't supportive of me, but weren't against of what I was doing. Also, my family was okay with me um, doing my daily job, like as a certified court interpreter,
Right.
working with lawyers and doctors. But my own family was not very supportive of me going to Vietnam, meeting this strange French Australian. So I didn't tell them. But I just went there and saying that I was on a business trip, and then I met him. But the book is so interesting that it also talks about the human energy fields, which actually explains about the acupuncture pressure points and also the chakras and meridians and everything seems to be connected. And the book explains why some people who can see auras can predict the physical illness ahead of time,
Right.
because the physical illness manifests after the auras or the colors of the auras change. So that's actually a very interesting concept.
Yeah, I mean, I've done healing work myself, and I've visited different healers. In terms of being in the energy field of the healing work, it makes you more open to not only the receptivity of the energy, but also to be actually visualize it myself in terms of working with other people. So I understand that particular concept, and I'm sure many people out there who are interested in spirituality and healing understand it as well. You also spoke about Michelle having a connection to a person called Tao, or Tho, if I pronounced it correctly. Um, yeah.
Yes. How is actually the ET who was the main contact person for Michel Demarque, taking him to their planet, Thiaoouba, for 9 days and then come back. So Tao is this kind of magnificent 9 or 10 foot tall, gigantic ET being who is really beautiful. She is blonde, she is very sexy, and she's very compassionate, full of love. And she never ages because she can regenerate her body tissues and cells. So on their planet, they never die. They're forever looking like in their 30s, and they can perform all the the I would say the supernatural abilities, all the miracles performed by Christ, because they have the ability to levitate. They can communicate through telepathy. They can materialize objects. They can project certain images onto people's imagination or brains. They can do all the things as did by Christ. But actually, there's a connection between the events as recorded in the Bible to their interventions or their involvement to the people on earth, as explained in the book.
Yeah, maybe you could touch upon Jesus in terms of, I guess, the Immaculate Conception, in terms of what the information was passed on in terms of Jesus traveling from different places. I believe he was in Japan, you mentioned, or in a different journey than many people have in their mind.
So, according to the book, there are two beings. One was Jesus, and the other was Christ. Jesus was the one who was born from the Virgin Mary through the embryo placed by the ETs to the uterus of Virgin Mary. He was born this way just to catch people's attention. Some extraordinary was going to be born this way, but also to fulfill the prophecies. The young Jesus born this way was highly spiritual, but he couldn't perform miracles. This is documented in the New Testament of the Bible. He had a very profound conversation with the teachers of the temple, but there's no record in the Bible of Jesus performing any miracles before the age of 30 or before he began preaching. He went to India. This is why some people say that he went to India and traveled through China and lived in Japan for the rest of his life. So this is why when people search on the internet, the tomb of Jesus in Japan, they can find many articles and videos of people showing that there is a tomb of Jesus in Japan. The book is not very perfunctory or superficial. The book is very specific and detailing the descriptions of the tomb of Jesus in Japan, and also describing that there's another tomb next to the tomb of Jesus, which is the tomb of his brother who died in China by accident. Christ, on the other hand, was the one who was put on the cross and then died on the cross and then resurrected 3 days after. He was actually an ET being who took on the body of Jesus made by the ETs to resemble the appearance of the Jesus who went to Japan, just to be able to perform all the miracles. The reason that the Jesus born from Virgin Mary couldn't perform miracles is because when the astral body goes inside of a embryo, it has to pass through what the ancient Nagas would call the river of oblivion, forgetting all the knowledge to perform miracles and also forgetting the events that happened in the past lives. So that's the reason they have to send one of their own without going through the process of going to the embryo in order to perform miracles. They had to do this because people in the past, as well as people nowadays, are highly skeptical. They just wouldn't believe anyone's teachings or preachings. Someone would have to show the ability to perform miracles in order for the teachings to be believed. So this is why Christ performed miracles and then preached about the love and spirituality and also the concept of reincarnation through his resurrection. He resurrected 3 days after, just to show people that there is life after death and there is reincarnation. But as we all know that the concept of reincarnation was later removed by the Catholic Church Council meetings. And this book is so specific, it named the 4 specific Catholic Church Council meetings that intentionally removed or distorted the original meanings of the ancient scriptures.
Wow, very fascinating. I mean, I've heard about that. I think in 500 AD it might have been, in around that century, in terms of the removal of that. It's interesting how the church itself, I guess, wanted maybe either the corruption or the loyalty to the church, as opposed to having the knowledge of knowing that life exists after this life and that our soul carries on. You know, I've spoken and interviewed many people who've had immaculate conceptions themselves, who have had ET contacts in terms of being pregnant without any physical contact with another person, and having gone to the doctor and being told that they're pregnant, and they said it's impossible. And the same exact story was carried on. And also mentioning the fact that in terms of Jesus himself, I know a specific shaman from Ecuador who had a visitation from 1,000-man meeting in the Amazon, where a ship came down and off stepped Jesus, the extraterrestrial Jesus, as you perhaps speak of. And so it's not only enlightening, but it's also so inspiring to understand not only that we have this earthly experience, but what lies beyond in the universe. You also spoke about, I believe, Moses in terms of parting the sea.
Yes, Moses was actually born not from a Jewish family or a Hebrew family, but he was born of an Egyptian family, according to this book, Thiaoouba prophecy. And if you search on the internet, if you search the name Moses, and scholars say that it's actually an Egyptian name, and actually this verifies the details in the book. Who parted the sea for Moses? It was actually the ETs from Thiaoouba that used a force field to part the Sea of Reeds, not the Red Sea. The book actually corrects the misconception that it's actually not the Red Sea, but it's actually the Sea of Reeds it was more shallower that Moses went through or passed through. And they decided to give a hand to or help Moses because the Hebrews were under the Egyptian rule, and the pharaohs were suppressing the spiritual development of the Hebrews. So this is why the ETs from Thiaoouba decided to help out and to guide Moses to lead the Hebrews out of Egypt. So that's the famous story of Exodus. And they actually gave mannas to the Hebrews to eat. Mannas was actually, they were actually space food, like very compactable space food. It's whitish in color, and it's made of grains. It's very nutritious, but it doesn't have any taste, and it rots every 24 hours. And also the 10 Commandments were real. They were given to Moses. And actually, the book says that the Messiah actually came, and that was actually Christ. So this is the gist of the book. Very interesting details, and actually made a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, that makes some sense to me in terms of actually like saying like the chosen people, in terms of, I guess, increasing spiritual awareness for the other people around them, as well as civilization. And so I guess, as you say, the Egyptians were suppressing the development of spirituality, if I understand that correctly.
Yes.
And
So did the Romans when Jesus came. Yeah.
yeah, and interesting. I had also spoken to somebody who once said to me, he said Jesus came around as a high end extraterrestrial to pass on high information, spiritual information, but was naturally he didn't come at the right time, and the people weren't ready for that information to come through. Very fascinating. In terms of psychic abilities, is there anything said in the book about developing psychic abilities or the connection?
Yes, the throughout the book, there are two ways of communications between Michel de Marquet, the author, and Tao, the ET from Thiaoouba. One was just normal talking, like what we are doing right now, and the other is through telepathy. And also they showed Michel de Marquet many of the abilities that they could do. Michel told me that he was asking them, teach me how to levitate. And then they just laughed at him, indicating that no matter how dedicated Michel de Marquet was in practicing the abilities, he wouldn't be able to do so because he didn't have the reserve or knowledge or something like that. But at the end of the book, it says if you want to develop these psychic abilities, you should first meditate and then concentrate. The two are different. You first have to meditate. This is my research, not from the book. You have to meditate and go into the alpha brainwave and also into theta brainwave. And then you have to use your subconscious mind to concentrate. And then this is how people can develop the ability to be clairvoyant or something like that. So I think the book is so specific. It actually tells people that you also have to incorporate the human energy fields and also the other bodies of the human being. We not only have the physical body, we also have the astral body, the psychotypical, and also a few other bodies. And people who are able to have psychic powers, they connect all the chakra points and also be able to do so in a very subconscious way. So this is what I learned about from my research.
Yeah, very interesting in terms of you having the background also in terms of the chakra systems as the acupuncture meridians and connecting all of this. It's almost as if in life, certain people are guided to explore different avenues of evolution, both here on an earthly level, but also on a spiritual level. Um, you also mentioned, I believe, about the Great Pyramids and their purpose.
Yes. According to the book, the Great Pyramid of Egypt was actually built 17,000 years ago by a very wise person called Thoth from Atlantis. He had the knowledge of using anti-gravitational technologies and also supersonic vibratory systems to cut the huge stones in a very precise manner. Because he had the wisdom and knowledge, he was able to align the stones perfectly so that the users of the pyramid of Egypt, the great pharaohs of Egypt, were able to sit in the king's chamber, meditate, and communicate to people living on different planets by projecting their thoughts from the top of the pyramid into other worlds. Because the Great Pyramid was actually an energy center to capture cosmic terrestrial energies. They also use the Great Pyramid to make rain by projecting energies through a metal plate into the sky so that clouds would form and then rain would fall. So this is according to the book. And actually, Thoth came from Atlantis, ancient civilization that existed in the Atlantic Ocean. There was another ancient civilization called Lemuria that existed on Earth between the year 250,000 years ago and also 14,500 years ago. In that period of time, we lost the ancient civilization because of a natural disaster, of an earthquake. The continent of Lemuria sunk into the ocean almost overnight.
Yeah, wow. I heard one of the interviews where you spoke about, I believe, a conference in Germany, or in terms of the um, meeting of different minds, suppressing information or gathering information and psychic abilities. I wasn't exactly sure of the name of the book again, but maybe you can refresh my memory.
Well, the name of the book is 334 Lies, L-A-E-S. It's actually an autobiography of the former highest degree chair of a secret society that was founded in Germany. Later, I found out it was the Illuminati because of the website illuminatiorder.info. That book is very disturbing in content because it describes the rituals, how to obtain power and psychic abilities by torturing other people or by doing that. What they don't realize is that everything is recorded in the Akashic record, because when they die, they give up the physical body, but they're going to also go through the life reveal process, which plays back how they did in their lifetime, being able to experience how the others felt when they did things onto others. It's like a holographic film. So they didn't know this. So that's why they conducted all the ferocious tortures and rituals. But it talks about how they were able to develop their psychic abilities also through meditation, through different forms of practices. It tells how they're able to predict the future so accurately, as shown in the Illuminati card game. If you search the Illuminati card game, you're going to see that it actually came out in the 90s, but it predicted the 9/11 event, it predicted the death of Princess Diana, and also Donald Trump and things like that, and COVID. And so it tells us how they're able to do that through a special form of astrology and numerology, and also through what they would call prejudiced seeing. And it's a very interesting book. So for a long time, I have been really reluctant to meeting the copyright holder of the book, which is different from the author. The author disappeared in the summer of 2001, just 2 months before 9/11 happened. And actually, there's a connection between the two. So because of the tortures that they describe in the book, I was really afraid of meeting the people over there. But in the last 2 years or so, I've seen so many wars and conflicts rising up in the world, such as the Ukraine and Russian war, and also in the Middle East. I think I need to do something and to find out what their agenda is, and to see if there's a way I can prevent further conflicts from happening by finding out what they're thinking. And also because from many sources, like including arm dealers and also people in the military industrial complex, and also people who have psychic abilities, they all tell me that the third world war is inevitable, and I think it's time to take action.
It's interesting. You speak about the military-industrial complex. I've interviewed Laura Eisenhower, the great-granddaughter of Dwight Eisenhower, the president, and when he spoke about the military-industrial complex and working with many of the former Nazi doctors from Germany and Project Paperclip, and the combination of the infiltration through the whole military and creating weapons and pharmaceuticals. I guess, as you mentioned, the Akashic Records, eventually that reverberation of throwing the rock into the water will eventually create a ripple that will create an outcome. And we're experiencing that now as we exist in this present moment in terms of people challenging truths, information, and people being compromised in the government or in places where representing the people themselves, but being infiltrated by not only their mindset constituents, but also by reptilian energies and energies that go beyond this universe. And I don't know if you can share about that, or if you have any insight into the readings of how certain figures are infiltrated. I know, for example, myself, I mentioned the shaman friend. He was taken aboard a ship in Ecuador as a child and taken underground and through different valleys and exposed to the passages under the earth, and spoke about walking up the mountain, and many of the locals would say, "Did you see them today?" And he said, "Yes, I saw them today." He said, "The good ones?" He said, "The good ones." But they were told about the beings that were affecting and creating almost a war on this planet, on this earth, and infiltrating things. Do you have any information from your own background that you want to share or insight on that subject?
I know there are dumps or underground military bases. That's a fact. I don't know who were involved in that. Um, and I would refer back to Ronald Bernard, a Dutch banker, a former Dutch banker who used to work for the members of the Illuminati. And he said that, and also is consistent with the book 334 Lies, is that the people, the high degree members of the Illuminati, they have super psychic powers. They have the ability to kill a person just using their psychic powers. And Ronald Bernard witnessed their abilities. And also in the book 334 Lies, it describes how they were able to use these psychic powers to do a lot of things that we would consider the black magic. And Ronald Bernard says that people think that they are influenced or they're the reptilians, but they're just regular human beings, which is consistent with the book 334 Lies. It says that the members of the Illuminati are regular human beings, but with psychic abilities that would make people believe that they're people from different planets or ETs. I don't have any specific information regarding reptilians for now.
Yeah,
I would welcome any evidence coming to my mind.
yeah. So as you evolve in these particular subjects, what are you further searching for? Because you are a seeker, and what are you looking for?
So the book Thiaoouba Prophecy talks about the four real dangers on Earth. Number one, money, and they talk about the financiers who control everything behind the scenes. I learned about the people, the people who are running everything behind the scenes from a book, the 300 Committee by a British former MI6 agent, intelligence officer. And I think they do exist through different organizations. And I really want to find out who are the people behind running currently. The 300 Committee is Committee of 300 talks about what happened a few decades ago. But I want to find out. I want to find out now who is really running everything behind the scenes. And I'm trying to see if there's a way to kind of influence the general mass as well as the people making the decisions in order to create more peace on Earth.
Yeah, uh, I guess educating people and breaking down walls that exist that are being placed, specifically even more so in desperation to withhold information. But the work that you're doing is obviously pulling aside bricks and opening up the walls to allow the insight and the light to shine. Um, you have also a scholarship program I saw of offering or something related to that, where you were talking about a purpose for a better world, spiritually and technology. I don't know if that's the main theme of it, but the message itself is excellent. Maybe you could just share that message.
Yes, a better world scholarship. It gives out one scholarship per year, $1,000 to anyone who reads about the book Thiaoouba Prophecy or and writes about it. And the purpose is actually to encourage people to read a book of a very specific nature that bridges science and spirituality, because the book has specific verifiable facts that can really enlighten the readers. And also it talks about how dangerous religions are, and also what we need to do to really rise up against tyrannies in the world, which is by a collective consciousness, a collective action through nonviolent resistance, or by having a strike. So it actually makes a very good example of event happened on different planets. in which it only took 4 people to protest against the government. The 4 people died, but a few months later, everyone learned about what happened, what really happened, and everyone started to work together using nonviolent resistance, by having a strike against the government. The police joined force, the lawyers, the doctors, everyone joined force. And then it only took a few days for the government to back down, to listen to the demand of the people. And then the government changed from a totalitarian regime to a more democratic spiritual regime. That actually happened on different planets. So we have different ET species in our Milky Way galaxy. So I'm aiming to bring such knowledge to the young people, to the people who are seekers of knowledge, by encouraging them to read this book, Thiaoouba Prophecy. So this is the purpose of my scholarship.
Yeah. Are you still in? Is Michel Desmarquet still alive? Or,
No, he passed away in 2018, right after I met him for the second time.
was there a message that he left you with in terms of telling the world, or something for yourself that you kept close to you?
Yeah, he did reveal the one secret that he knew but couldn't write in the book. And that's actually my motivation of spreading the messages in the book, because we are really at a very critical moment of time, like a cross point in the history of mankind. It's not just the Americans or Indians or Japanese or Chinese, it's the entire human race on Earth. So I would give you an analogy or illustration of what happened to Enoch and Noah. So Enoch was taken away by God or by the Thiaoubans, because Michel, after reading the book of Enoch, found a lot of resemblance or similarities between the descriptions in the book of Enoch to what he personally encountered or experienced. So Enoch wrote a book, and then Noah, who was a great-grandson of Enoch, was told to build an ark. And then in between, there were like 40 to 60 years, according to a scholar in the UK. And Michel Desmarquet was taken by the same group of ETs in 1987, and he got a book published in 1993. If you do the calculations, you're going to see that we are in the time frame in between. So I'm hoping to change the history. I'm hoping to change the future of the world for the better. And the history, the past is fixed, but the future is changeable. It really depends on our actions. So this is what I'm trying to do, to promote the messages the best I can. And I need your help as well.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I think you're passing on the word of Michelle as well as your own personal motivation. It seems like you're intently motivated to do that. It's interesting myself. I mean, I've had sightings that I've seen, and I've had orbs floating around and different connections. And I do read the Akashic record, so I do understand the power of the present moment in manifesting future possibilities. And I think the work of what you're speaking about lends itself to that. Um, and many people don't recognize the fact of some of the power of our thought and the power of intention. And I think you're an example of that through the work that you're doing. Um, if somebody was interested in reaching out to you, where could they do that?
They can find me on Facebook and YouTube. They can also purchase or get a book online, or by going to Amazon, by searching the title, Thiaoouba Prophecy, Thiaouba Prophecy, or the other book, 334 Lies, LIES.
Yeah, I did look up some of the books on Amazon, and I saw the covers themselves. I'll be interested myself in naturally reading that. Are there any writing projects that you'll be coming up with in the future?
Yes, I'm going to be writing about a book on the secrets kept, um, mostly towards the general public, revealing the secrets kept by different industries, the medical or health industry, the energy industry, the education industry, the media, and also the secrets from the ETs who give us great knowledge, including the Akashic record, because the book details what Akashic record is. It's actually like a psychosphere, a cocoon that rotates at 7 times the speed of light around Earth, recording everything happens on the planet. So if people can match the vibrations of the cocoon or the psychosphere, they can access the Akashic record.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting when I'm doing readings for people. It, it's almost a hologram of information that's coming through and just capturing that specific moment when the information is there and grasping it. Otherwise, it slips away very quickly. So that's an interesting concept that you speak about. And I know the ramifications of assisting people with that information that they themselves have access to, but sometimes it's easier from the outside, from another person seeing their perspective, looking in. But the power of, again, the power of our actions and the power of past lives impacting the present moment. Have you ever investigated past lives? I mean, you mentioned at the very beginning the amnesia that befalls us when we enter this consciousness into this incarnation, and the fact that we do
Yes.
forget. I believe it was Plato or Socrates that mentioned it as amnesia. And I
Yes.
interviewed Raymond Moody, who spoke a little bit about that, and we discussed that in contact. So maybe you have an idea of past lives in terms of your thoughts on them, and specifically ancestral healing and ancestors in our lives, the impact, because I believe in that very profoundly.
Yes, so we do have different past lives, and some people have more, some people have less. So people who have more past lives are old souls. Michel de Marquet was actually an old soul. He had 80 past lives already, and he was actually shown of his different past lives briefly. So once he was a regular German mining worker, who accidentally killed his wife and leaving many children behind him. And he was a goldsmith in Japan. He was a water carrier in India. A few times he was a beggar on the street. He was also a queen of a country on a different planet of a higher category. So according to the ETs, the different past lives that we have are just like different positions on a wheel. What goes up has to come down. So it really doesn't matter if you're the richest person in the world, such as Jeff Bezos, Warren Buffett, or Bill Gates, or if you're just a beggar on the street. What's important is how you respond to the challenges in your life and what kind of spiritual lessons you learn. Because a super wealthy person has his own spiritual lessons to learn through his experience of being the richest person in the world. A beggar on the street have his or her different spiritual lessons to learn. So they're actually all the same, but we all have to experience different experiences in different lifetimes. And the physical body we have is just a tool for us to increase or improve our spirituality. It's just like a sculpture. You have to use a tool to carve the sculpture into perfection. And the physical body that we have is just a tool that we use to make our spiritual astral body being perfect, so that we can rejoin the great ether through our higher selves. So we do have past lives, and people like Dr. Raymond Moody, Dr. Michael Newton, Dr. Brian Weiss, and Dr. Ian Stevenson did a great research on this subject. And it's just so sad that the Christian religion doesn't emphasize it anymore.
Well, when we leave salvation in the hands of others, as opposed to taking the responsibility of our own consciousness, past and present and future. And once we do that, as we're speaking now, then we have the capacity to understand that the present moment is not just the present moment. Our soul needs to develop, and once the soul is developed, the body is the suitcase that carries that soul around. And I think many people who've gone on the journey of near-death experiences and have had some type of dark night of the soul are aware of the fact of that we're more than that physical body, especially when, like in shamanism, when we have a soul fragmentation, when aspects of our soul depart from our body and people feel like they're not in their body themselves. I think that's the physical example of it, other than a near-death experience where people make contact with beings, extraterrestrials, and so on. It's very interesting. If you'd have a message for the audience, something that you'd like to leave them with, what would that be?
There will be, when you have challenges in life, look inside for answers, for the kingdom of God is within you, because our astral body is connected to our higher self, which is connected to the great ether, the creator of the universe. through our connections, through our meditation, through our prayers, or through our dreams, we can connect to our higher self. So look inside for answers and not to follow a specific religion or the mainstream media.
Yeah, I like that. I like that message. Uh, I guess more people hopefully will be on board. And I think as we have the lunar eclipse tomorrow, which will be a spiritual beginning, a spiritual awakening, a little bit darkness, but hopefully bringing light into people's lives. I think that that's apropos at this time. So I'd like to, unless you'd like to say something else, would you like to speak about anything else specifically?
I would encourage people to get a book or the books because the book contains great knowledge that can really help your personal and professional life. Reading the book is actually the best investment ever made in my entire life. As you probably know, I majored in economics and studied financial or finance, and I don't think even Warren Buffett is of this caliber. And the book contains great knowledge to make your life more fulfilling and also down to the future generations.
Yeah, I have just one more point that I wanted to add to that specific comment that you made. Many times people are afraid of the darker aspects of themselves and the darker aspects of information that are presented. And because of that, people shy away from dealing with their own darkness. So in terms of reading some of the aspects of the books themselves, as you mentioned, in terms of the 334 Lies, I believe that's the name of it,
Yeah.
how were you able to overcome the darker
Mm.
aspects of the book?
It's a very good question because I almost wanted to remove from the English version some of the dark descriptions of the rituals. But then I think we have to be honest with what really happened to the author. And he was really regretful of what he did in the past. He actually repented um, by revealing the secrets of the Illuminati and risking his life because he broke the vows of secrecy, which means death to him. So he have to respect his intention and also respect the facts that really occurred in his past. So I think just go through that and recognize that this is what really happened. It's just facts that people should know. And the more you know, the more you're prepared, and the more you can respond to the future challenges.
Well, on that note, I'd like to thank you, Samuel, for joining me and sharing your wisdom, your insight, and your experience, and the desire to grow and to seek and have knowledge. I think it's empowering and it's admirable. So I want to thank you.
Thank you, Adam.